When was the last time you walked into a room and immediately knew where the exits were? When was the last time you sat with your back to a wall in a restaurant? When was the last time you told someone where you were going before you left? If your answer to all three is, I don't do that, this video is for you. Not because you are in danger, because there is a gap between how safe you are and how safe you could be. And that gap is not about strength, speed, or equipment. It is entirely about mindset. I'm Asha, and this is Safety Nest. Today I'm covering the psychology research that explains why some people are consistently more vulnerable than others, and the 3 specific mindset shifts that close that gap permanently. The research on victimization is uncomfortable but clear. Victimization is not random. Researchers studying predatory crime across multiple countries and contexts have identified consistent psychological and behavioral patterns that make some people significantly more likely to be targeted than others. And none of those patterns are about physical characteristics. They are about 3 things: awareness level, boundary behavior, and what psychologists call locus of control. Awareness level. How much attention does this person consistently pay to their environment? Boundary behavior. How clearly and consistently does this person communicate and enforce their personal limits? Locus of control. Does this person believe they have meaningful influence over what happens to them? Or do they believe outcomes are determined by external forces beyond their control? People with low awareness, unclear boundaries, and an external locus of control are significantly more likely to be selected as targets across every type of predatory crime studied. Not because they deserve it, because those patterns are visible and exploitable. The awareness deficit is the pattern Safety Nest has covered most extensively: divided attention, phone use in transitional spaces, the absence of environmental scanning. But the psychology research adds a layer that goes beyond specific behaviors. The awareness deficit is not just about distraction. It is about what psychologists call default mode, the state your mind returns to when it is not actively focused on a task. For most people, default mode is internal, thinking about the past, planning for the future, processing emotions, running social simulations. Internal default mode means your conscious attention is consistently directed inward rather than outward, which means your environment is only entering your awareness when something specifically demands it. The people who maintain the highest environmental awareness are not in a constant state of vigilance. That is unsustainable and counterproductive. They have trained their default mode to include a low-level environmental scan that runs passively alongside their internal processing. The shift from purely internal default mode to a mixed internal-external default mode is the first mindset change, and it is the one that changes every other behavior on this list. The second pattern is learned helplessness, a concept from psychology research that describes the state where a person stops trying to influence outcomes because past experience has taught them that their actions do not make a difference. Martin Seligman's foundational research on learned helplessness showed that when people are repeatedly exposed to negative outcomes they cannot control, they eventually stop trying to control outcomes, even when control becomes available. In the personal safety context, learned helplessness manifests as the belief that crime happens to people, and there is nothing you can do about it. That belief, however understandable its origins, directly suppresses the awareness, preparation, and response behaviors that change outcomes. It creates a self-fulfilling pattern. The person who believes their actions do not matter does not take actions, and the absence of protective actions increases their vulnerability, which reinforces the belief. Breaking the learned helplessness cycle is not about positive thinking. It is about small, specific actions that produce observable safety outcomes, and accumulating enough of those experiences to update the underlying belief. Every protocol on this channel is a learned helplessness intervention. Every time you run the parking lot ritual, every time you execute the rideshare check, every time you identify exits on arrival, you are accumulating evidence that your actions change your safety profile. That evidence updates the belief. The third pattern is the social compliance trap, the tendency to prioritize social smoothness over personal safety in ambiguous situations. This pattern is more strongly socialized in women than men, but it affects everyone to some degree. The social compliance trap is what makes people get into elevators with strangers who make them uncomfortable, because refusing feels rude. It is what makes people stay in conversations they want to leave, because walking away feels awkward. It is what makes people ignore gut signals, because acting on them might cause a scene. The research on this pattern is extensive. Social compliance is a deeply embedded human instinct, and in most social contexts, it produces good outcomes. The problem is that in safety-relevant contexts, social compliance is exploited deliberately. Predatory actors use the social compliance instinct as a tool. They create situations where acting on a gut signal requires a socially uncomfortable response, and they rely on the target choosing social comfort over physical safety. The antidote to the social compliance trap is a pre-made decision, made in advance, before any specific situation arises, that in any context where you feel physically unsafe or uncomfortable, social consideration is suspended. Not forever, not in every context. In that specific context, in that specific moment. The pre-made decision does not require courage in the moment because the decision has already been made. You are not choosing to be rude. You are executing a protocol you established when you were calm, informed, and thinking clearly. Here are the 3 mindset shifts that address all 3 patterns directly. Mindset shift 1. From reactive to proactive. The reactive mindset responds to threats after they have materialized. The proactive mindset creates conditions that reduce the likelihood of threats materializing and prepares responses before they are needed. The shift is not about anxiety or hypervigilance. It is about moving safety preparation from a response to a condition, something you maintain as a baseline, rather than something you activate in an emergency. Every protocol on this channel is a proactive tool. The shift is deciding to use them before you need them, rather than wishing you had used them after. Mindset shift 2. From polite to boundaried. Polite means adjusting your behavior to manage other people's feelings about you. Boundaried means behaving according to your own assessment of what is safe and comfortable for you, regardless of how that affects other people's feelings about you. These are not opposites. A boundaried person can also be warm, friendly, and socially engaged. The difference is what happens when social pressure conflicts with personal safety. A polite person chooses social comfort. A boundaried person chooses personal safety. The shift from polite to boundaried does not require confrontation or rudeness. It requires the pre-made decision we discussed in the social compliance section. In safety-relevant contexts, my comfort and safety take priority. Mindset shift 3. From passive to present. Passive means moving through environments without actively engaging your awareness. Present means maintaining a low-level environmental scan as part of your normal default mode. Not vigilance, not anxiety, just presence. The present mindset notices the person who has been in the same coffee shop for 3 hours without buying anything. It notices the car that has been parked outside for 4 mornings in a row. It notices the pace matcher 30 meters behind on the street. The passive mindset does not notice any of these things because it is not looking. The shift from passive to present is the most immediately actionable of the 3, because it costs nothing, requires no equipment, and can begin in the next 5 minutes. These 3 mindset shifts work together as a system. Proactive preparation creates the protocols and habits. Boundaried behavior creates the willingness to execute them even when it is socially uncomfortable. Present awareness creates the environmental intelligence that tells you when to execute. Without all 3, the system has gaps. A proactive, boundaried person who is not present will prepare and be willing to act, but will not notice the moment to act. A proactive, present person who is not boundaried will notice the moment, but will hesitate because acting requires social discomfort. A present, boundaried person who is not proactive will notice and be willing to act, but will not know what to do. The three shifts together create a person who is prepared, willing, and aware, which is the complete safety profile that research consistently shows changes outcomes across every type of predatory crime studied. I asked you at the start when you last identified exits, sat with your back to a wall, and told someone where you were going. Those three behaviors are not paranoia. They are the proactive, boundaried, present mindset made visible in small, daily actions. Start with one today. Just one. The exit identification habit. Every room you walk into for the next 7 days, find the exit. That single habit, repeated 7 times, is enough to begin shifting your default mode. Share this with one person who needs to hear the psychology behind why this matters. Drop in the comments, which of the 3 mindset shifts do you already have? I will read every one. Stay aware, stay safe.